Now, if Tony Benn was my political father, our first guest is my political son. I love him. He's Jackson Hinkle, the one and only. They seek him there, they seek him here, they seek him everywhere. He's the Scarlet Pimpernel, and my goodness, he cuts a dash. Jackson, welcome back to the show. Been too long. Where are you now? Are you able to say? Because I saw you were in Pyongyang. You made a magnificent speech in Sana'a in Yemen, where the bombers were overhead. You're traveling the world and doing God's work. Tell us, what's in Jackson Hinkle life now?
Well, it's a great honor to be here, George. I am currently located in Moscow, Russia, safe from the Department of Homeland Security in the United States. Although I've done nothing wrong, you never know what they're going to do, because they're going up and rounding up innocent people who are simply voicing their opposition to the wars in the Middle East right now, and they're deporting them, or they're saying that this is somehow illegal. It's really crazy what's going on. But Sana'a was beautiful. Yemen was a great country to visit. It really opened my eyes to many things, and it was an honor to be there. But I would be lying if I didn't say that I don't have the same level of courage as those Yemenis, and I am happy to be out of the line of sight of American B-2 bombers and F-15s that were taken off from the USS Harry Truman and Diego Garcia, now that I'm here in Moscow.
Well, don't be shy about that. I myself have been bombed twice, and I'm ready to tell anyone there can be no more terrifying experience than literally to be pressing your nose into the ground, hoping that your profile is sufficiently slim that you're not going to be struck by the shards of red-hot steel that fly around. So I'm very glad that you're back and safe. Let's start with what's happening in the United States. You alluded to it. They are literally rounding people up. It's a kind of fascism. People are being told to self-deport if they know that their social media contains criticisms of Israel. They should self-deport. And if they don't, they'll be huckled in the street by masked men. Lots of masked men, even if they are a little girl from Turkey, from Tufts University, surrounded by men whose faces she could not see, who produced no documentation, who handcuffed her and took her away. I was waiting for the shot in the back of her head. I thought it was a scene from Syria, from ISIS, Al-Qaeda controlled Syria. What on earth is happening in what used to call itself the land of the free?
It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's really a complete attack on free speech by the so-called pro-free speech, Make America Great Again movement. And I will say that there's many within the MAGA movement who are opposed to what's happening. The genuine organic roots of the MAGA movement are opposed to what's happening. But there's so many fakes and fraudsters. And then, of course, at the top, you have someone who is the least MAGA of all, Donald Trump and the Kushners and all these ilk who are really, there couldn't be further from the embodiment of what the true spirit of MAGA is. And the most important thing, as Ron Paul always says, is we have to protect free speech. The last speech that Ron Paul gave on the U.S. House floor was about the need to protect free speech. And now we see today just how important that is. I'll say, just briefly, it's baffling to me and disgusting that our government is deporting people, lawful residents, even green card holders, over their opinions against Israel and in support of the resistance. Because it was the United States who had a very similar founding. My ancestors came to America on the Mayflower. They fought in the American Revolution. And the American revolutionaries were called terrorists. You know, they took civilian hostages. They were fighting for their freedom against an asymmetric power, a foreign aggressor. They were fighting for freedom of movement so they could develop further west. And they were fighting for what they saw as their basic freedoms. And if you look at the struggle in Gaza today, it's really the exact same, except it's much worse. The asymmetric power is far more gruesome. So I don't see how any American could oppose the resistance of the Palestinians and those in the axes of resistance.
Well, I mean, it's called the First Amendment for a reason, isn't it? Because without that First Amendment, no other freedoms can exist. If you don't have freedom of speech, how can you possibly have a democracy? And that was the shtick of the America First movement when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were imposed, and their big tech bro allies were throttling the life of people like you and me and hundreds of thousands of others, anyone with a different point of view, whether on mass medication or on foreign wars. If you stop people from freely speaking, how do you know that you've missed, therefore, the answer that you needed, the answer that we needed to hear? That's what John Stuart Mill said about liberty. It's not that those who are being denied freedom of speech are going to always be right. They may overwhelmingly always be wrong, but one time they may be right, and we will not have heard that which was right, because it was suppressed. I mean, I'm looking at Cornell University, I'm looking at Tufts, I'm looking all over the Columbia. Columbia is like a reign of terror, actually, at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is these students didn't even commit their so-called crimes when Trump was in office. They committed their alleged crimes and violations of the norms of the Trump administration during the Biden administration. So it's like the whole thing is insane. I don't understand how you can be prosecuting people for something that you didn't even have any oversight on. He wasn't in office. It wasn't his policy that they were protesting. They were protesting Joe Biden. And by now going after these protesters, Donald Trump is defending Joe Biden. He's defending Joe Biden's legacy. Donald Trump said that Joe Biden shouldn't bomb Yemen. Now Trump is bombing Yemen, again defending Joe Biden's legacy and continuing it. And same thing with Iran. Now you have Donald Trump, who just a few weeks before the election said, you know, I don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon, but we can't be bombing them. We can't bomb them. This is a horrible idea. Now, B-2 bombers at Diego Garcia with the in-air refueling planes, and they're having all these threats now about going in and bombing Iran. It's the most insane and hypocritical thing I've ever seen.
Do you think he's going to do that, Jackson, or is this the traditional art of the deal bluster?
I sure hope it's the art of the deal. I do think it is the art of the deal. I don't think he's, and I really don't think he's that stupid. And the main reason why I say that, and I think it's the little known secret that everyone secretly does know and they just don't want to say, is that if the U.S. gets into a war with Iran, violates Iranian sovereignty in a very big way on Iranian soil, then you will have trillions and trillions of dollars lost in not just the U.S. economy, but the global economy. Of course, the U.S. will be hit the hardest because they'll be the target with all of their infrastructure, ports, U.S. military assets, so on and so forth in the region that are right on Iran's doorstep. So I think if Trump is looking at this strictly as a businessman, he would be very, 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 very stupid even then to start a war with Iran.
Well, he doesn't even have John Bolton to blame anymore. I mean, it became a trope. Good czar, bad advisors. And if only Trump hadn't had John Bolton, he wouldn't have made some of the mistakes he made in his first term. But, I mean, who is it that's encouraging him to do such an insane thing, if indeed he's going to do it?
Well, I don't think it's Elon Musk, because Elon Musk has posted memes about how we have all these U.S. military bases surrounding Iran, and Iran's not the one that's provoking the U.S., it's the other way around. I would imagine that it's the likes of Marco Rubio, although he doesn't really have a whole lot of power right now. He's complaining about how he has no power. He's being sent off to the Caribbean, to Jamaica, and even then he's being, shown up by Cuban doctors who are saying, no, we're not going to leave Jamaica when you tell us to, Marco Rubio. I think it's mostly really just the Israel lobby. I don't think there's much of an ideological, overarching ideological strategy here. I do honestly believe that you have Miriam Adelson gave Trump $100 million. Sheldon Adelson gave Trump $100 million before he passed. You have the whole rest of the Israel lobby that's very powerful. Trump clearly has a good working relationship with Netanyahu as of right now. And I think this is the thing that Israel wants more than anything else, is to either go to war with Iran or to bring about the end of the Islamic Republic of Iran in a slow fashion, bit by bit, by forcing them into some horrible, renegotiated Iran deal, which will strip them of all their power.
I can't let you go without testing your views on Greenland and Canada. I don't know if you heard my monologue, but it's enough to make a horse laugh for me. The most supine satraps of the American empire, Denmark and Canada, are currently threatened by annexation from their overlord. As Oscar Wilde said on the death scene in Little Nell by Charles Dickens, you'd have to have a heart of stone not to laugh.
Well, I don't really have any problem with them taking Greenland, because it's already basically ours, and some people are saying, oh, what about the threat against Russia and in the north? And it's like, well, that's already ours, basically. We could do whatever we want there, and Russia has plenty of territory in the north at their disposal. But as for Canada, I 100% support taking Canada. I don't really know what his vision is here, but I think it would be a beautiful vision if the U.S. fully liberated Canada. We could drive Cybertrucks up there and liberate it in Cybertruck convoys or something. And the main reason for this is Canada has gone to war against the U.S. several times. There's been rumors that a lot of the some of the assassinations of U.S. presidents came in, British banking cartel plots out of Canada. And also, I love the idea of creating a land bridge with Russia through Canada, and this gets us one step closer.